Hi my loves, welcome back to Blissful Joy. My name is Charlie. If you're new here, welcome. Join the spiritual community because we are raising our consciousness. My purpose is to accelerate your conscious expansion. On this channel, I like to talk all things law of attraction, consciousness, self-development, and so much more. So, I'm starting a new series on my channel. This is called Consciousness and Chamomile, where I talk to you guys about a consciousness subject whilst chilling and drinking our chamomile tea. So if you haven't got your chamomile tea, green tea, whatever tea you drink, coffee, or you can just join me with a chamomile, pause this video, go make yourself one so we can be wholesome and have a friendly chat. This video involves me being very courageous and very vulnerable to share with you guys my spiritual awakening story. Now you may have noticed a trigger warning at the beginning of this video because we will be talking about heavy subject matter, and I don't want this video to trigger anyone that watches it, so be mindful of that before you watch this video. To begin, I just wanted to talk a little bit about spiritual awakenings from my understanding and how I've seen them come about. So spiritual awakenings are usually triggered by a trauma or things like breakups, loss, grief, all of that kind of stuff. Where you start to question the world and think, is there something else out there? My spiritual awakening story, like many others, was triggered by trauma and loss. Now in 2018, I was going through a heavy breakup with a person that I thought I loved, but now looking back at it, it seems to be a bit warped. But at that time, this person was my everything, and this was at a time in my life where I was really drawn to broken men because I thought in some way that I could fix them, and it was my purpose to fix these people. There was a few before him, but this one was what triggered my first awakening back in 2018. So me and this person had gone through 3 breakups, all orchestrated by him, in the space of 4 months. And within that time, I'd experienced a trauma that kind of changed things up for me a little bit. And that trauma was sexual assault. Now, of course, this is a heavy subject, so I'm not gonna go too much into this, but that happened, and then eventually it led up to the night that I spiritually awoken, and that was a very, very dark night of the soul. It was a very dark night of the soul. I decided that I didn't want to be here anymore, and I decided to take my own life, so I attempted suicide. And I only remember small bits and pieces of this night because I believe that a part of me did die that night. As Neville talks about dying to the old man, that is how I relate to that night because I barely remember any of it. I remember little pieces of it, like doing the act and being on the way to the hospital and my mum saying, he's guiding you, stay in the light, and I was trying not to fall asleep, but I was so out of it, I was so tired. And then that's really it. That's all I remember. After that, which felt like a month had passed, I woke up and I found myself doing this morning routine that I'd never done before, but it was like I'd always done it. It felt really natural, and that was meditating in my heart center and doing gratitude. Now, of course, looking back at that, it does feel like a past version of me died and I transmuted somehow into a parallel version of myself, which is why that night is very distorted and I can't remember much. I can't remember coming home. I can't remember anything after having a mental breakdown in my mum's arms in the hospital, and then it's blank. And it felt like a month until I woke up again. So I got into gratitude and I started to love myself. I started to practice self-care and self-love even more, and I got myself into a higher state of being. I was doing inner child work and Ho'oponopono, even though I know now that this isn't exactly the right way for me to heal because I wasn't feeling my emotions like I am now. So we are doing all of that stuff at present. It's just surreal how all of these spiritual awakenings happen, and that is just my story. After I spiritually awakened, I started to see the world in a different way. I developed new habits, I started setting boundaries, I found myself being single and being okay with that for about 9 months. Like, I was totally okay with being single, whereas before it was hard for me to be alone, and I was scared to be alone in terms of being alone with my thoughts, not having someone there. I had a lot of needy energy in my past relationships. My advice to people who feel like they are spiritually awakened, they have spiritually awoken and they're looking for clarity, I would tell you to feel those emotions and accept them that you have within yourself, because everything in your life leading up to this moment, it was meant to bring you here. It was meant to bring you to your spiritual awakening. Everything that's happened to you has happened to trigger these emotions within you so that you can deal with them, so that you can accept them, and you can become who you're meant to be, which is an enlightened being or a love being. You're meant to transmute all of those lower energies. You're meant to become this person who feels nothing but love and joy, and who feels whole and complete from within. I do want to share a story with you all, which I will be, just to get you all excited about this little series I'm doing, I'm going to be sharing with you my twin flame story. Now, I know that there's a lot of different views on the twin flames and, you know, what we should call them, but I just see it as a term for the person that triggers your awakening to your true consciousness. That's how I see twin flames, and I really want to share with you guys this story because it is a good one and it will give you some clarity on how you could manifest your twin flame. even though you don't need techniques, at that time I did use a technique, but I was very, very detached about it, and it happened so quickly. I met this person very quickly after I did the technique. So get excited for that upcoming episode of Consciousness and Chamomile, and I will see you in the next one.